to make sure that we can hear all of the commissioners and know which commissioners are on the phone. To start out with, Kay, I see you. Can you just unmute and say hello?
Hello.
Hello, Kay. Paulette. Paulette, are you back with us? I know you were having tech difficulties.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Excellent. And let's see, I see Antoinette. Welcome.
Morning.
And do we have Commissioner Campbell on the call? I don't believe so. Okay, and in the room, we have Commissioner Purcell and Commissioner Ansari and myself. All right, so the first item on the joint finance and development. Oh, and sorry, and we also have the executive director here. Can you raise your hand just to make sure that they can see you? Okay, excellent. All right, so the first item on the committee agenda today is the Casey Utilities outflow. Am I turning this over to Buck?
Good morning, everybody. So I want to catch everybody up. I mean, the Casey utility presentation, I think this is, well, I know that you've seen this before. We presented it in May to the committee just for information. We've received proposals back on late Friday afternoon or mid Friday afternoon. We were able to take a quick look at those. I sent out a second addendum to the first addendum to tee this discussion up. And so we received several companies formally responded. You can see from the write-up, the dollar amount was between 6.25 million and 7.25 million. And the proposed work period was from 6 months to 21 months. And so after we go through and answer questions, we're going to be asking the committee to allow us to evaluate the proposals, talk to the proposers, and then make a recommendation to the committee about what we want to do to go forward as we take apart the numbers and try to understand what the costs are. So that's where we are right now. You know, to answer Commissioner Coleman's question, through the marketplace website, which is our third-party advertiser, in addition to sending information out through the paper, 686 contractors were notified of this, that we were going to, that we were putting a request for best value proposal out on the street back in early August. And of those 686, 35 contractors downloaded the information, and after that, we got some proposal response. Just to give you, if you looked at the data, you know, the marketplace does a great job of telling us what the DBE breakdown and non-DBE breakdown of who got notified. And if I'm not going to read that through for you, but you can see that there's a good diversity, a level of folks that took a look at this proposal, and a good group that downloaded it. So any questions about where we are before I quickly walk through why we have to do this this Casey Utility Phase 1 project? Okay.
So just a quick question, Buck. So our process, we've got bids, we still need to pull through the bids, and yep, you're going to come back at our next board meeting and report that. Then at some point, if we've made a recommendation, we'll want the board to approve it.
Yeah, and so there's a couple options. You know, we need to consider whether we're going to accept these bids or whether we're going to change the method of receiving bids. This was a best value RFP, we might come back and just ask for a lump sum hard bid because we anticipated that we would get more responses and more competitive responses than what we got. So we'll be making a recommendation going forward about whether we even accept these bids or we look at a different process of trying to get new bids going forward. And then, yes, at the next committee meeting, we need to have that conversation about what is the recommendation, whether we accept these one of these bids or whether we change our method. If that makes sense to you, I can try to explain that better if that's confusing.
No, actually, that's not confusing. I think, and this is actually the good part of the conversation. I don't think we need to go back and talk about, you've already given us this presentation, unless you telling us something has changed between May about what we're doing. I don't think we need to go back through the presentation from top to bottom, but I do think it's good to talk about a little bit. It's okay, why do you want to go back to market? What did you see that kind of leads us to believe that we need to maybe undertake a new process, what that could mean for our schedule? I think that would be very, that'd be very good, at least for me to hear now, as opposed to.
So, and I can speak to this a little bit, and Mike Wegerson, you can join in if you'd like. We've probably got about 60 to 90 days that we can figure out before we need to break ground on this project, because we don't want to hold up other projects at Casey, and because we've committed to Metro Water and to Metro that we would do this expansion of the stormwater and the sanitary utilities, because we've been able to conduct some projects to this point. We believe that there's, after people were calling in and asking about the proposal and how to propose, we read from the questions that there might be more people that were not interested in a best value competition. They're more interested in a hard bid. And that's because the community, the civil community, the civil people that do civil work, heavy civil, big civil projects, they're all busy. And so it's not worth their time to go through a month-long process of interviews and answer questions, and that for some of the folks that were looking at this. So one of the things we're contemplating, and we're trying to understand exactly what the numbers are in these bids, if it would be better if we would get more competitive, more round competitive, more competitive process if we put it out as just a lump sum hard bid without the best value competition. And the best lump sum hard bid, for those of you that might not be following this, that's when they present a number, we open up the numbers all together, and the lowest number is awarded the contract, presuming that number is not so low that it should be thrown out. And it's different than what the process we were looking at, where we were going to look at the numbers and interview the companies and look at the best experience, the best delivery, and look at other qualifications besides just the cost.
Mm-hmm. And so, but are you attempting to, when you go through this process, or whatever process you decide that the agency decides to go through, are you simply seeking lower price, or are you seeking better firms? Are you trying to get more and better firms? Are you saying, I'm not really satisfied with the quality of firms that did to this process, so we may want to change it up to attract that?
Well, I'm not judging the firms on their quality. I know there's a lot of quality firms out there that we would like for them to present a competitive bid, just to open it up to more than a handful of bidders. Our budget was for this construction project to be between 4.5 million to 5 million, working through the soft cost, with a total project cost of right under 6. And the numbers came in above that. And so that's what we're trying to understand, what exactly how they calculated their bid, and if maybe that we could recompete this to see what's possible. You know, there's some changes that have occurred since then with the plans, and so if we incorporate some substantial changes, we can recompete this project, and maybe and hopefully we'll get more favorable bids.
But can you speak to why the plans have changed? What caused those changes? Or is that final plans after stormwater issues or whatever?
So we're always in negotiation with Metro Water about the different items that they're asking us to put into it, and different connections, different structures. So, you know, there's a bunch of things that as we were developing this and we continue to develop, we get another ask that this be included into the project, that you line the last 300 feet with a liner and not just have concrete in it. So there's always some changes that are being contemplated by Metro Water and by our architect to say, okay, if we did this, we could lower the cost. If Metro Water would agree that we didn't have to do this, we could lower the cost. And so those negotiations have been going on. It's not a substantial change to the size and the location of the pipes. It's how they connect to other infrastructure that we're always in discussion about.
Thank you.
This is Mike Wegerson, Director of Recap. I just want to add, so you know, we're going to have our engineer looking at this, studying the numbers with us as well, studying the plans, be asking them to maybe take a hard look and see if there's something that they can design more efficiently that might help us find a way to reduce costs. We might even go so far as to taking KC Utility Phase 1, and there is a Phase 2 that's going to come several years from now, but breaking Phase 1 maybe into a Part 1 and a Part 2, and bidding these out as in smaller chunks might also increase competition. So we're certainly not just trying to make this decision all on our own. We do have the advice of our engineer. They are a very good engineer. They're a national engineer that we're working with, Kimley Horn, and they've done great work for us over the last 5 years. So we trust that they'll be able to help us navigate through this and come up with the solution that we need.
All right, thank you. If there's no additional questions, my understanding about this is that this is just strictly informational for now, correct?
Right, and we're just trying to keep the board informed, because when we get to a decision, or if we accept these bids, there are only they submitted them on September 4th. They expire on November 4th after 2 months. So if we accept one of these bids, then we need to be under contract by the end of November. So if we were to go to decision in October with the board, I wouldn't have a committee meeting for 30 days between a committee meeting and a board meeting. The timing just doesn't allow for that. So I'm trying to keep the development committee and the finance committee abreast of what we're discussing and how this is maturing, so that we can shorten that time frame between the final committee meeting and a board meeting, if that's acceptable.
Thank you for keeping us apprised, and it sounds like you guys are, asking all the right questions and critically evaluating this. So, yeah, we'll wait to hear from you in the October meeting. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is Cumberland View revitalization. We had a presentation at our last meeting. Is there additional information or discussion that needs to take place today?
No.
Okay. Moving on then, the one item of additional business is the 5 Points redevelopment district. Am I turning this over to you, Jim?
Well, just briefly, I'll pass over to Joe Kane. There's a commit, the local council member, Mr. Withers, will have a public meeting tonight. We've had a lot of discussion about whether to extend the 5 points or not with individual commissioners. We sent out a write-up on it. I think what our recommendation is, I know brevity is important, is wait and see what happens at Mr. Withers' event tonight, and we proceed from there. And the write-up provides sufficient background for the board members to keep them up to speed. Should you decide to extend this district in a very tight timeline, still achievable, at the October board will have to have a committee meeting followed by a board decision where you can make the timeline. And the rest of it's pretty much in here. Joe, you got any updates beyond that? We want to keep it short.
You pretty much touched on it. The memo pretty much covers ready. And due to length time public hearing and council because it's pretty we'll have to act very quickly if we were to
Joe, unfortunately, you're
I'm sorry.
for us. Unfortunately, you're cutting out for us. So it looks like your internet just came back, but it was slow for a second. So can you please repeat yourself?
As Mr. Harbison explained, the time is of the essence because this is an ordinance in Metro Council and public hearings would have to take place and the like. And so if there was a desire to move this forward, we would have to act very quickly. We intend to listen in to the councilman's meeting this evening and then talk to him and see what his results are from that. We just wanted y'all to be aware of what was going on. We do believe 5 points, in my opinion, has been a very great success story. And I think if not for the tornado that we had, I think I don't think there would be much of a question about this because everything is moving along very well in that area. It has been 30 years since the plan went into effect. And that's where we stand. I'd love to answer any questions for you.
So when did we become aware of this? Because we were basically saying is that we have 1 month to get to an outcome where it just doesn't happen. After a district has been in place for a really long time, like, did we just find out about this or?
We've only had public interest in about the last month. And previously, our initial staff assessment was it did not meet the threshold for extension. The case for extension, which I was not getting into great detail here, but we can, is solely based on the tornado. The tornado damage has been remedied largely by insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a tenuous case, but one that could be made. We really think it's wise to wait and see what the local council member comes up with and see from there whether to proceed. We'll keep you informed. We can start our staff work if needed or MDHA work. We'll have to do it quickly. We'll let you know. But it will be an uphill intellectual argument on evidence to make this an extension. I think it's possible, but it's not as strong as others we've had in the past. And we just need to see if there's a great public interest. I think we owe the public to run the process. If not, and if the council member doesn't see a need, that makes it very difficult to get through council, which is the second step. And we won't know any of that until tonight, but that's what we want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had touched on it before, but only in that it was expiring. When we briefed it in the redevelopment districts, it was expiring. That accomplished all its objectives and frankly seemed to be a logical time to have it move on. But it's come up with a lot of interest in the last about 30 days.
And is that driven by the council person? So, because I guess, let me just ask the two quick questions. Who has to make the case? And if we were to extend it, does it take resources away from other districts?
No, it does not take any resources away from districts.
Okay.
We have to make the case on staff analysis to you that it meets the standards of the state for blight and needed economic remediation. To do that, we also have to meet with the public and get their input before we come to you. We can still pull all that off. We frankly thought it was wise to let it pursue a natural exploration. And I think the meeting tonight, which we hope, I mean, we've been talking with Councilman Withers on this quite some time, and it's just tonight was the first time we could get it going. So.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Is there any additional business? Well, with that, this meeting of the Joint Finance and Development Committee meeting is adjourned.